Ye ke chatma hanojanaha.
So yeah, this is Sri Isopanisad, Mantra 3. So the translation, would you like to read that one?
Yes, the killer of soul, whoever he may be, must enter into the planet known as the world of faithless, full of darkness and ignorance.
So just a bit of a recap. In the beginning, two mantras is it's explained about a God conscious life and that it's recommended that we live in that way, and that will make our lives very auspicious and free from any bad karma and entanglement in the material world. But the alternative to that, of course, because everyone has free choice, we don't have to be God conscious. We're not forced to. We have that freedom. But if we don't, then we have to take responsibility for that. And that is, it's a downward spiral. You know, if we avoid God consciousness and live just a purely atheistic, materialistic life, then it's a downward spiral. And killing the soul can't be killed. We explained that, but we're pretty much ruining our future at getting back our eternal blissful life in the spiritual realm. So we're condemning ourselves to this cycle of samsara, this cycle of birth and death. So although the soul is never killed, but we're spoiling our opportunity to get back our eternal blissful life, free from this material entanglement. To be stuck in this material body for the soul is an unnatural existence. Normally, the soul has no material covering. We're just in our original spiritual form, and we're complete freedom and blissful life, full consciousness. So to be stuck in this material body is a kind of imprisonment. So we're pretty much condemning ourselves to continuing that imprisoned stage, going through being transferred from one body to another, as long as we avoid God consciousness, which is our natural life, and like this, which is to be in the material world. And it's saying in this verse, full of darkness and ignorance. So these are some of the symptoms of the material world. It's a dark place. As you know, when the sun goes down, it's very dark. So during the daytime, the sun keeps the darkness away, and at night time, the moonlight. Like now, it's Purnima. Now it's Purnima, so full moon. So there's a little bit of light at night. But other than that, if it wasn't for the sun and the moon, it would just be fully dark. So that's the nature of the material, dark. And also the quality that goes with darkness is ignorance. So like when it's dark, you can't see anything. So also in the material world, generally everyone is ignorant of who I am and why I'm here and what my purpose of life is, what's my relationship with God. That's all forgotten about. And we think we can enjoy this material world and be comfortable in this material world. So this is all a display of ignorance. So that's saying that that's the future of someone that avoids God consciousness, is just taking birth again and again in this material world, which is full of ignorance and darkness and different species. Okay, so I made a mark where we finished off a couple of weeks ago, which is more than halfway through, where it starts off, we are given this
Okay,
human
yep.
form of life. Yep, do you want to continue there?
Yes. We are given this human form of life not to work like hard asses, swine, or dogs, but to attain a highest perfection of life. If we do not care for self-realization, the law of nature force us to work very hard, even though we may not want to do so. Human beings in this age have been forced to work hard like the asses and the bullocks that pull carts. Some of the regions where asuras are sent to work are revealed in this mantra of Sri Isho Upanishad. If a man fails to discharge his duty as human being, he is forced to transmigrate to Asurya planets and take birth in degraded species of life to work hard in ignorance and darkness.
Mm.
Mm.
Mm. Actually, in the Vedas, it's explained that human life is meant for only one purpose, and that's for self-realization. That's why God has given us in this human life a very special kind of intelligence that can be inquisitive, as we've talked about before, Jijnasu, that
Mm.
Brahma Jijnasa, that we can be inquisitive about spiritual things. Who am I and why am I suffering? Is there a solution to the suffering? Is there a God? All these kind of things. And and generally we see in every country there are people that tend to being religious. So it's quite natural that human beings tend to be God conscious and religious. And in all countries, there's people that go to churches and mosques and temples and synagogues and so forth. And it's a natural tendency to love God. Of course, modern materialistic society suppresses that natural inclination. And modern science also tends to try to push us away from a God conscious life. And instead of depending on God, now we think we can depend on science, but we can, and that science will provide everything to us that we got from God before. And but we see it's not doing so well, even though we have highly advanced technologies and science. But we're suffering a lot from COVID virus and all these kind of things, and all of our technology is not really helping us, and we still have so many problems. Mm.
Is it because the advancement we have is basically material based, not spiritual based? So even if we are saying science, it's more material based rather than spiritual.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Mm.
So science completely ignores God generally. Of course, if a scientist really is a big brain, which often scientists are very intelligent, they're like brahmanas, really, a corrupted kind of brahmana. So a very intelligent class, the scientists. If they really study nature strongly enough, deeply enough, then often many of them do become God conscious. And we see that like Albert Einstein,
Mm-hmm.
he was God conscious,
Yes.
and all the Newton, Sir Isaac Newton, he was God conscious. So if they really research and study and make experiments and everything and think very deeply, analytically studying everything, researching, then many times, even if they weren't God conscious, they become God conscious. They realize there must be a God behind it. It's just too, uh, complicated to have happened by chance. There must be someone in control. So they slowly come to realize it themselves. Um, but unfortunately, the vast majority are not really so intelligent. And many scientists, of course, are just doing that job as a way to earn money, as an income. And by producing particular results from their research, they get money. And so many times they may tell lies just to continue their job.
Mm. I think yeah, the intention of some of them is more about money, how to get money, rather than to look
Yeah,
at
it's
overall
just
betterment. So
yeah.
if that is misdirected, actually, yeah. So it's you're true. Yeah, that's true.
Like traditionally in Vedic culture, the Brahmanas, the intelligent class, they're not paid. They're
Mm.
not paid workers. Because so then they're completely free. They're not influenced by any employer. They don't have an employer. So they'll just speak the truth. And they don't care whether you like it or not. Tough luck. If you don't like
Mm.
it, tough luck. But they're just going to speak the facts. But as soon as you become a paid worker, you're influenced that you want to please the boss. If you don't please the boss, you're going to get fired. If you don't give the
Mm.
results, that he wants, you're going to lose your job and so forth. But the Brahmanas, though, completely independent. They were maintained just by often they would have disciples, and the disciples would go out and beg some alms, would collect some alms, some simple food and rice and roti and stuff like that, and they would live very simply and be satisfied by whatever alms their disciples would collect, or they would go out and door to door and collect a little bit of food, and they would be satisfied with that, living a very simple life. So that was a very good system, because then you get very unbiased knowledge. But now the knowledge that we have has so much bias there.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but that's according to the Vedas, the real purpose of life is self-realization, not just to work hard, as it said here, like the animals do. And some examples are given here, like the pigs and the dogs and so forth, the cows and so forth. They're working very hard for what for? For getting food and shelter and so forth. But we see human beings are mainly doing like that. I mean, some people might not agree, but we see, and mostly in city life, I mean, many people, if you include traveling time, they're out of home, involved in work for maybe at least 12 hours a day, sometimes more, and 6 or 7 days a week in many cases. When I was young, it wasn't so hard. I mean, in New Zealand, if you go back 20, 30 years ago, everyone worked only 5 days a week, and it was maximum sort of 9 to 5. It was a 40-hour week, so 9 to 5. But then I noticed as time went on, it crept up. And then they started working half a day Saturday, then full day Saturday, and then even Sundays, and then night shifts appeared. Before there was no night shift, then night shift came, people working in the night time, and then it wasn't 9 to 5 also, it was it became 8 till 6, and then 7 till 7, and then even people used to criticize, you Hare Krishnas, you get up so early in the morning, and joke about that we get up at 4. But like times when I've lived in cities, and I know what the neighbors are doing, many times the neighbors are getting up the same time as me, or even earlier. I'm just getting up and I hear the cars zooming around. That means people are getting up so early, but not to do what I'm doing, do prayer and meditation and so forth, but to go to work. And they're getting up at 3:30, 4 o'clock, 4:30, whatever, to go to the office or factory. And because the traffic jams in many cities have got so bad, people get up earlier and earlier to try to avoid the traffic jam. Stuff is crazy, so they're actually, this has come true, working so hard. I mean, we were misled by the news propaganda and so forth, that due to all these wonderful technologies are going to make our lives so much easier, and we're not going to have to work so hard anymore. I was hearing that for years, so many years, that in future we won't have to work so hard anymore. We're going to have all these time-saving devices like computers and washing machines and so many things, time-saving devices, and you're not going to have to work so hard. It's going to become easier. But where did that happen? They're talking about it, but it never actually happened. The actual fact is that we seem to be working more and more longer hours and have less time for our own bodily needs and health and family and so forth, holidays and so forth. So what happened? What they didn't tell us is that someone's got to pay for the time-saving devices, isn't it?
That's right.
For your washing machine and your latest phone and your computer and all these kind of things, and all the vacuum cleaners and all these different things. And if it all adds up, it's a lot of money, and someone's got to pay for that. So to have that time-saving device, someone's got to work in an office or a factory to pay for it. I mean, if you didn't have it, then you wouldn't have to work so hard, and you would have more time to do what you wanted to do. So it's really very entangling, very complicated, and many of us have been cheated like that, either knowingly or unknowingly. So, do you want to say anything about that? Anything?
Yeah, yeah, I think you're really right. I mean, we keep running after, even if it's saving our time, but still, we are not going towards, we are not that, inquisitive about material, anything other than, if you have free time, what do you do? If you're
Mm,
not thinking spiritually, if you're not, you will be thinking about, you will be watching television, or you're seeing advertisement, so you are actually looking at something new and you want to get that. How do you want to get that?
mm,
It's if, even if you have free time, if you don't utilize it, if
mm,
it's not directed, you will
mm,
always be thinking of what you see, as you said, in your senses. Basically, what you feed your senses, basically your mind will work towards that. So you see
mm,
more, watch television, you look at other people driving different cars, or say your thinking has gone wrong, right? It
mm.
needs a shift. That
Yeah,
initial shift has to be there to utilize the free time. I think,
yeah.
yeah, it's a very valid point, that even if we have, it's good thing that we have time saving machines, but the time we are saving, we are not utilizing it correctly.
Mm.
Isn't that
Yeah,
correct?
that's also true. Yeah, that's also true. Yeah, yeah, very true. And
It's the initial shift in your thinking, need to be there. If you are free, then you shouldn't be thinking about the same thing again and again. But the thing is that this world we live in is, we are bombarded, our senses are bombarded with
mm,
material stuff so much. Unless
yeah,
you have some kind of connection with somebody who has a different thinking, or yeah, the thinking need to shift. And that can happen with, if you
yeah,
go
like
people, yeah.
yeah, association. So, like you say, the sadhu
Mm,
sangha, sat sangha. That's the
that's
only
right.
way that we're going to shift out of it, because modern day society is set up to make us greedy.
That's
Because
right.
it's all functioning on people spending money and buying
Mm,
things, and that's only going to happen if people become more and more greedy and want more and more things. So that they
mm,
encourage that, like you said, people watch TV and then they see that this is the latest car, this is the latest phone, this is the
mm,
latest clothes, and so then immediately it gets planted in your mind that, oh, I have to have this to be happy, I have to look like this, I have to dress like this, I have to have a house like this, so it puts it in our mind. So, but if we have a different kind of association, like with a
mm.
saintly person or whatever, it will be encouraging us to live a more simple, natural life. And so we have more time for our God conscious development, self realization, like that. And that'll bring us more happiness and so forth. And then then the change will take place. Otherwise, it's very hard to get out of that system.
Yeah, the
But it's
association. Mm.
sad to
So,
see,
mm,
that people wasting their life, simply running after, the same things the animals run after: food
mm,
and shelter and a companion and just protection, defense, and nothing more than that. Of course, like we've said, I mean, those things are there. You can't avoid them. We need food, we need shelter, clothes, so forth. But we also need more than that. So we don't want to dedicate our complete whole life just for the same things the animals do. We want to at least keep some portion of our valuable human life for understanding how to get free from this material
mm,
existence, how to get liberated from it. Therefore, in Vedic culture, there was four goals of human life presented. First one, dharma. You would have heard this phrase before: dharma, artha, kam, moksha. Dharma, artha, kam, moksha. Have you heard that before?
yes, I have heard, but I don't think I completely understand.
Okay. So these are called purushartha. So the four, purusha means the human, and artha, four values or goals of human life, purushartha. So dharma means like pious life or religious life. So that was one purpose or goal of human life, is to do some religious activities, some pious activities. And like I said, in every culture that's there. People go to church or the mosque or the temple or whatever, and they pray and do some sacrifices, do some austerities and like this, so forth. And then So dharma and then artha. So artha means economic development. Economic development. So that's there. And then calm means sense gratification. And then moksha. Moksha means then liberation. Liberation. So these are the four components in a human being's life that according to the Vedas should be there. So why dharma? That because if having some religious component to your life, you're trying to please God. Now, why do you try to please God, and how's that connected with your artha, your economic development? Like I said, you need a food and a house, and that's what economics is all about: getting some material things. That's your economic development. But how's God connected with those material things? Because it's very intelligent. If God is pleased, He's the controller of all material things. He created the material world. He controls the material world. If you please God, you think He can't give you some food? He can't arrange some food for you. He can't arrange, some house for you and shelter for you and a partner for you and all these things. Of course He can. He's the ultimate controller of everything. So and it says, like in the Christian Bible, oh God, give us our daily bread. So Christians would pray to God, please give us some food, give us our daily bread. So that's a dharma. You pray to God and you try to please God, and by having that religious life, then your economic development is sorted out. You get whatever material things you need, and then economic development is followed by sense gratification. So how's that connected? So if you have some money and wealth and material things, then you can enjoy your senses. And of course, that's what people want, to enjoy their senses. And then following satisfying the senses is moksha. How's that connected? That, as we know, that no matter how much you try to satisfy the senses, ultimately they're never satisfied, and you still, in your heart, is like a blazing fire. There's still emptiness, a voidness in your heart, that you're not completely happy or peaceful, no matter how much money we have and food and clothing and house and everything. There's still something missing, and people end up becoming frustrated. And at the end of becoming frustrated, then we want to get out of the material world. That's how liberation fits in. Now, just a little addition to how pleasing God is connected with material things. You know yourself, being from India, that so many different countries invaded India, right?
Yes.
There's a long list.
Yeah.
Moguls and Portuguese and British,
Yeah.
Afghans, and every Tom, Dick, and Harry has had a go at plundering India.
That's right.
So why is that? Why did they all go after India, do you think? Why didn't they go after New Zealand or Australia?
Yeah.
So why India? What was so special about India that nearly every country on the planet was after India?
I think yeah, it's probably, I mean, I'm not sure, but it's the people, it's the way they live. They don't, they are not very violent because of, probably, I don't know. So they probably is more they more follow the, as you said, the dharma. They follow um the proper lifestyle, and they don't, it's against us to, violence is one of the thing which is against our religion, or
Yeah, but that's
so.
true. No, that's true. But I'm just trying to analyze the mentality of the people that invaded India. Why did they pick on India? Why did they go after India rather than go after Greece or England or America or Australia or any? why did they attack India and wanted to take over, control India? What did India have that was attractive for the rest of the world?
Mm. It's probably, I don't know, maybe it did their no. I mean, it's more of their. I think the spiritual knowledge, or I don't know. I mean, yeah, maybe, yeah.
Yeah, that's not so much the case. I mean, these are generally materialistic people. They're not attracted for spiritual knowledge. In fact, they
Oh,
tried to. In
yeah.
fact, like the British spent months burning all the books from the libraries in India because they were very, envious and jealous of their rich culture, and they tried to and to prove that Britain was more superior, they had to make the Indians forget their own culture. So they tried their best to destroy all their. They weren't so much attracted to it; they wanted to destroy it. But see, what they were attracted to and for invading purposes was they were attracted to the spices. India had so much abundance of spices, silk, minerals like gold and silver and jewels and so many things like that. And the list goes on. Fantastic opulences, everything you could, all material things you could possibly imagine. India had an abundance of it. Now, then the question is, how come India was so abundant in material things? Why not Africa? Why not Russia? Why not Europe? Why not America? Why not Australia? That India previously was the most had the most material abundance in the whole planet. Now, of course, people think India is poverty stricken, but I'm talking about back in time. It was so opulent in every, you name it, any architecture. It was the best in the world. The clothing, best in the world. Like I said, food ingredients like spices and that, the best in the world. Precious stones, minerals, the best in the world. So, and you said, the people were just simple people, very religious, and they're just growing their rice, plowing the land, and milking cows. And so, how come they had living in such an abundant country? Was it by chance?
Probably not. I think, yeah, it's because the way they actually live their life. So it's more godly life, I think, and
Yeah,
because of that,
yeah.
what happened is
Because
that God has.
yes, that's it, the button. Because of that, because of the godly life, then they had such an abundance of material things. Now people don't see that connection, but that connection is tangibly there. If
Mm,
you live a godly life, you will become abundant materially. You will become abundant. And the prime example is India itself was so abundant. I'll tell you, in the walls to the palaces in India, you'll see these massive holes in the walls. If you go to the big Rajas, these big palaces, big holes. And do you know why there's a big hole in the big stone wall? Why there's a big hole in it?
I think I've heard that they had a lot of stones, like diamonds and other stuff and gold.
Yeah.
They
Can
used
you
to.
imagine, just in your wall? This is not in your safe. This is just all over the walls as these massive jewels. I'm not talking about what, your wife wears on her ring, a tiny little one. I'm talking about one you could put your hand inside the hole where the jewel used to be. Massive jewels. I mean, just an abundance and just everywhere. It's incredible.
Yeah,
The
I've heard
opulence and
in the when I was young, I used to hear that word that we had so much gold in
mm,
India
mm,
before
yeah,
maybe some 100 years ago. But
yeah,
and you're right, from that perspective, it looks like the Muslim rulers from the west. Sorry, yeah. So from the
yeah, the West, yeah,
west coming
yeah,
and just trying to conquer India for probably
yeah,
gold because yeah.
yeah, of
So
course,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So you're
So,
right on that.
so material enjoyment follows a godly life. It's not opposed. It's not like, oh, if I serve God and love God and worship God, I'm not going to enjoy myself. I'm not going to be materially prosperous or whatever. That's ridiculous. Material prosperity follows a godly life. It's not opposed to it. It's not like, if I live a godly life, I'm not going to be prosperous. I have to just focus on being prosperous. What's the problem with focusing on being prosperous? We see that right now with the world focusing on being prosperous. How's it working out? Is it working out? We're all going down the gurgler. Economies are collapsing. Every country is full of debts. The only way we can continue running the social welfare system and the hospitals and the educational systems, everything, it's all on debts. We're all living, and individually the families have debts and the governments have debts. Like America's debts is like in trillions of dollars, not millions, not billions, but trillions of dollars. So, everything's owned by the bank. We say, I have a car and a house and everything, but it was all actually not mine. It's all the banks, so it's all crumbling. The international transportation's not working, due to all these current problems and everything. And there's health, chronic health issues around the world, chronic social issues. Like in New Zealand and Australia, there's a terrible problem with this drug called P.
Oh.
This terrible drug, and it's just destroying a major chunk of the population. It's just these chronic problems, and it's all through the world, and we see that that this is a result of a godless life. If we go away from God, then materially we go downhill too. But if we go back towards God, then things can become materially very auspicious and prosperous too. So we shouldn't think that spiritual life is going against our material life. No, the spiritual life supports our material life very much so. They go hand in hand, they go together. So that's what
Yeah, yes, so true. I think we are actually living the wrong way. You're more materialistic. It's probably, as you said, if we are more godly, then everything will fall in place, right?
yes, yeah,
So we are doing unnecessary stuff of actually going and trying to reverse engineer something, but we are not going to be successful in that. So
yeah,
that's true. We are living, we are doing it wrong. We are not, yeah,
yeah,
that's so
yeah,
true.
yeah. God is the supreme father. We're all of his children. And who's going to say that, that you don't care for the father and you don't respect the father, and the kids are going to be happy? It's not possible. Like even your children. How's their life going to be if they, making you upset and they don't care for you? But if they respect you and love you and everything like that, and do what you ask them to do, then their life's going to be so much better, and you're going to
Mm.
support them, and they're going to have everything they need to continue. So like that, how can we live under the control of the Supreme Father, and we don't give a stuff for him, and we never think about him or say something bad about him, and we think we're going to have a good life at the end of that? No, that just doesn't make any sense. It's not going to work.
Mm.
So just like if you live cooperatively with your father, as a child, you're going to be happy. If we live cooperatively with the Supreme Father, we're going to be happy. And if you peeve him off, if things are not going to go well, things are not going to go well, and we see
Mm.
that. We see that.
So true.
So a friend of mine, he actually showed me an old newspaper from many years ago when they had an earthquake in New Zealand in Christchurch, and it's just such a disaster for those people in New Zealand. The city was just so devastated. They're still trying to recover, even though it was over a decade ago. Still trying to recover from that.
Mm.
And but these are all just symptoms of a godless society.
So
And
true.
we know that and in this place, Christchurch, there's so many criminals and just violent people and people on drugs, and they're just so ignorant, just so many ignorant people, violent people, just rebels, and just don't want to work, don't want to do anything, just be supported by the government, and but what's the result? You just get a big slap, from Mother Nature.
That's right. Yeah, that's
So
right.
if Mother Nature just gives a little bit of a shake, then it's a major calamity for us.
Yeah.
So it's really, yeah, we should try to live more in harmony with the Supreme Father and Mother, because they're very powerful. They're very
Mm.
powerful. If you upset them, then it's a major, you know, trauma for us. So we should try to live more in harmony. That's the idea here.
Yeah. I
And
think.
it's also said, then if we refuse to live a